When I put out a poll asking what class I should look at next, it was a close match, but in the end, the fighter won out. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back to the RPG Daily, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. Getting into the fighter class, I really shouldn't be surprised that it won the poll. Going by a study that D&D Beyond did last year and the year before, it's consistently been the most popular single class in the game. Tons of players love playing fighter. I say single class because the Warlock is the king of multi-classing. Fighters come in all shapes and sizes. I think they're one of the more varied types of class also in the game. You can have heavily armored brute fighters, you can have small, light, and fast fighters, you can have ranged fighters if you want, and now with Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, you can have blind fighters, you can have two-weapon fighters, you can have unarmed fighters. There's a lot of stuff out there. Fighters are also, they can be general, but they're also very specialized. They come with the ability to use any armor, any weapons, but the fighting styles and the martial archetypes let them kind of niche down into something more specific that they become really good at. But because they can use everything, you'll find that a fighter is never really at a loss for a weapon in a pinch. The big question when making a fighter is, where did they learn to fight, and what kind of fighting is it? Did they learn in a gladiatorial arena against other fighters of equal skill? Did they learn from a mentor as they were growing up in the family castle, if they are nobles, for example, or just a family friend if they were less wealthy than the nobles? You never know how this fighter learned their skills, and that's something that can really tie into your backstory quite a bit. But enough of that stuff, let's get into the mechanics of the fighter. First off, for the basics, you're dealing with a D10 hit die, which means it's the second highest in the game, right after the Barbarian. Your starting hit points is going to be 10 plus your Constitution modifier, and at every level you're gaining an additional 1d10 plus your Constitution modifier in extra hit points. So you can get pretty beefy pretty quick as a fighter. Your starting proficiencies starts off with all armor and shields. All of it. You also get access to all simple weapons and all martial weapons. All of them. You're proficient in every weapon, every armor, and shields right off the bat. The trade-off of this is fighters don't get any tool proficiencies, which is unfortunate. Your saving throw proficiencies are strength and constitution, and your skill proficiencies you get to choose between acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival. You get to choose 2 of those skills right off the bat, like pretty much every other class gets. Let's get into the equipment that you get as a starting fighter. For the fighter, you have a lot of decisions to make early on, but you'll see that it kind of equips you for whichever type of fighter you want to be. Your first option you have is either chainmail or leather armor and a longbow and arrows. Your second option is you get a martial weapon and a shield, or 2 martial weapons. Those are pretty cut and dry decisions right there too. Option number 3 is a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or 2 hand axes, which are another ranged weapon. So you have more options there if you wanted to be a crossbow fighter or a hand axe type fighter. It's up to you. And last, you have the options between a Dungeoneer's pack and an Explorer's pack. You can look up what those have included in them in the player handbook. I'm not going to go in all the details on this one, but you can see from the starting gear, they just load you up with weapons. They say, here's your martial weapons, here's your shield, here's more martial weapons. You can have a lot of variety. Just the fact at the top where you can either go with the chainmail and get some good heavier armor versus leather armor, but then they say, oh, if you have leather armor, you need a longbow also. That's a good starting point to decide which type of fighter you're going to be. Then leaning into a martial weapon and a shield, or the 2 martial weapons, you don't have to be a shield fighter. You know, you could be a 2-handed type fighter. You could pick 2 types of martial weapons that really have nothing to do with each other. You're just foregoing the shields, which you can probably get later on in your campaign. Same goes for the ranged weapons between the crossbow and the hand axes. It's really up to your style. But you can see there's a lot of variety there. You can really build whatever starting gear you want as a fighter. At level 1 as a fighter, you get to choose a fighting style. There are a lot of different fighting styles. The video for that is going to be up in 2 days, so make sure you come back and learn about the different fighting styles, including the ones from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which really just expand the options for fighting styles to a ridiculous amount. The one rule with fighting styles, though, is you cannot take the same one twice. They each give a different bonus to some sort of stat, like archery will get you a bonus to your ranged weapon attacks. You can't take them twice, so you know you cannot go getting archery and then take archery again and get a stacked bonus. It doesn't work that way. Also at level 1, you get the feature Second Wind. Second Wind is a phenomenon in athletics and sports where a runner oftentimes they'll be so tired and out of breath and they won't be able to keep going, and then somehow they get this second wind. They get a burst of energy to be able to keep going to complete their task. As a fighter, it's very similar. On your turn, as a bonus action, you can activate the Second Wind feature to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. Unfortunately, you can only use this feature once per short or long rest. At level 2, you're going to get Action Surge. Now this lets you take another action on your turn when you activate this feature. Obviously, it doesn't cost anything in terms of actions to do that because you gain action. The Action Surge at early levels can be used once per short or long rest, and at level 17, that increases to 2 times per short or long rest. But even at level 17, when you have it twice per short or long rest, you can still only use it once per turn. So keep that in mind. When you get to those high levels, you can't get to double up on Action Surge on your turn. At level 3, you're going to choose your martial archetype. This is when you really focus in on your specialization and you can make a lot of choices. The martial archetype paired with the fighting styles, I see this as giving the fighters, there's no two fighters who are alike. They're all a little different in some way. Martial archetypes, like the other videos in this kind of series of like the Paladin videos and such, I'm going to be doing videos on each of the martial archetypes in detail later on, so come back for those. At level 4, you're going to get your ability score improvement or feat. The ability score improvement lets you take one of your ability scores and increase it by 2 points, or 2 of your ability scores and increase them by 1 point each. Some DMs, such as myself, allow the players to take a feat instead of ability score improvement. It's really up to your dungeon masters if they're going to let that happen. For fighters, you repeat this ability score improvement again at levels 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, and 19. You have a lot of options or a lot of opportunities to increase your ability scores or take different feats. From Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, we also get the option of martial versatility. This ties into any level that you can take an ability score improvement or a feat at. They give you other options as well. The first one is you can exchange one of your fighting styles for another one. If you find that one of your fighting styles just isn't cutting it for you, you can switch to a different one. The other option is if you have Battle Master maneuvers, which we'll have to cover in another video because there's a lot of those as well, you can swap one of your Battle Master maneuvers out for a different one. So that is martial versatility. It's from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, so of course it's at DM's discretion if they'll allow you to do that. At level 5, you get the extra attack. This is similar to other classes we've seen already where when you take the attack action on your turn, you can make an additional attack. This is not taking an additional action, it's just taking an additional attack with that same action. Keep that in mind. For fighters, this extra attack keeps increasing. At level 11, you'll be able to make 2 extra attacks, and at level 20, you'll be able to make 3 extra attacks. So basically, by level 5, you get 2 attacks per attack action. Level 11, you get 3 attacks per attack action. And level 20, you get 4 attacks per attack action. To put this in context, you can do extra attacks, then do an action surge to get more extra attacks by taking the attack action, giving you at level 11, for example, 6 attacks in 1 turn. It's a lot of fighting. It's a lot of attacks. It's a lot of dice to roll. At level 9, you get the feature Indomitable. What this feature does is once per long rest, you can re-roll a saving throw that has failed, but you must use the new roll. It's a pretty straightforward ability that can help the fighters stay alive, less likely to get charmed because they can re-roll their failed saves. At level 13, the uses of this increases to 2 per long rest, and at level 17, it increases to 3 per long rest. That pretty much covers it for the fighter. You'll notice that they get a lot of repeated features from this class, the extra attack being the big one, making that kind of its capstone ability is another extra attack. I think you'll see as we get into the fighting styles and the Battle Master maneuvers and the martial archetypes, this gives you a lot of freedom and a lot of flexibility to make this fighter how you want to play the fighter. Do you want to be this great weapon fighter wielding a huge battle axe on the field? Do you want to be a small, quick, stabby one that can still deal out some punishment, but is much quicker and maybe just uses daggers, for example. The option is there for you to do that. It's also important to understand that fighters can be a strength fighter or a dexterity fighter. When we look at a lot of classes, they tend to lean towards one or the other. Monks lean into being a dexterity-based type fighting class. Fighters can be equally great with both strength and dexterity, so keep that in mind also as we go over the martial archetypes. I know this seems like it's a pretty basic class. I'm kind of enjoying it though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I invite you to do so. I'm making some videos. If you want to chat with other D&D nerds like myself and the whole community, come join our Discord. If you want to support the channel in other ways and get some pretty cool miniatures for yourself, there's a link to my Etsy shop in the description, where if you use the code RPGDaily10, you can get 10% off your order. New models are being posted every day, so make sure you come check back and see what else is coming up there. Anyways, all that being said, I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.